We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button. Please smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends. If you want to support this channel through a donation, please hit the $sign with your comment, and we'll get to your super chat as quick as possible. We are going to be on the air for a very long time, so just buckle in, be patient, please, everybody. We're going to open up the phone lines in a little bit because honestly, I don't have a long monologue. Everybody's going to have their head on a swivel. Send me these articles, send me the reports, send me the information. Breaking news, everybody. Breaking news. Clemson has filed a lawsuit against the ACC. Finally, as we did a live show Friday, and go back to the Friday live show, and I looked at you straight in the camera, and I said the chatter behind the curtain is at an all-time level. Expect fireworks soon, as in soon, and it happened today, March 19th. On a Tuesday. Welcome in everybody into the studio that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid, especially today. Of all days, especially today, do not be afraid to be a legend in the chat room or with the phone calls later in the show. Let's get to it. I'm going to be bouncing around here, guys. I was not even at home. I was driving, picking up something for my mother. I get into the parking lot of the store. My phone is blowing up. You can't imagine what my phone looks like. So I said, in my heart, I said, sorry, Mom. Sorry to my elderly 91-year-old mother, but I couldn't do the shopping. I had to get in the car, get home. I will take care of my mother later. I got my sister over. Everything's okay. Nick Auerbach, the crux of the Clemson argument. Without a judicial declaration of its legal rights, which have been openly challenged by the ACC, Clemson is unable to pursue a wide range of strategic alternatives that may be necessary for its continued success in collegiate athletics and as an institution. By espousing an inaccurate interpretation of the ground rights agreements and allowing that interpretation to proliferate throughout the media, the ACC has cast, the ACC has cast a harmful cloud of doubt on Clemson's ability to engage in meaningful discussions with other conferences and media providers regarding potential future collaborations and or to negotiate alternative revenue sharing proposals among the ACC members. For Clemson to move ahead to ensure that it may continue to act in furtherance of its institutional mission, the cloud must be lifted. Now, and I've been telling you this for months, Clemson has been, it says here, Clemson, the harmful cloud of doubt proliferated through the media. The ACC has cast a harmful cloud of doubt on Clemson's ability to engage in meaningful discussions. They've had third-party talks. Let's be real. They have tried to gather up their valuations, and it's been positive. Just letting you know. But they want this thing to be decided. Holy smokes. First of all, let me thank everybody. We got more stuff to get to here. I want to thank everybody who's come on in. I'm just going to read the names. Stephen McNeely, Richard L., David Hackett, Joaquin Morales, Chief Fan, Tough Tony Prof, Cornelius Ground, Phil Port 76, Patrick, the Baylor Bear 2 Masta, Mr. Monkey Says, Go Black 45, Nick Boardman, Michael Uten, John Bennett, David Hackett, Don in Kansas, D5 Terps, Patrick, Jared Jones, Frontrunner 3, Markitex is in the house, Larry GM, Laurel Weiss, the Red Raider is in the house, FJ243, the Architect, Randy Taylor. Okay, thank you all for coming on in. Carrie, thank you for coming on in. This is a special edition live show. Let me get to this again. Everybody's trying to get out the reports here on this big story. According to Pickens County, South Carolina, Clemson has filed a suit against the ACC, becoming the second school to sue the conference in the past 4 months. If anybody, Justin Lucas, who did an incredible job yesterday, thank you so much, Justin Lucas, for coming on the show early to explain the latest filing of the ACC versus Florida State in Leon County. Thank you for Doug Rohan, who called in, and everybody else. Thank you so much. If somebody can provide me the link in which this court case Clemson has filed, please send it to my DM. What's interesting here? What is interesting? Woo! Okay. This is Pete Thamel. Basically, he goes over the same part of it. The heart of Clemson's suit here is Clemson's ability to meaningfully explore its options regarding conference membership. is inhibited by the ACC asserting it owns all of the media rights of the ACC institutions. The ACC has publicly asserted that the ACC irrevocably owns the media rights of the member institutions to home games played throughout 2036, even if the institution ceases to be a member of the conference. Okay. That is my point. That is what I've been drilling down to you all. That is why the idea of dissolution, it's why you still can't, according to the ACC, what they're arguing, that grant of rights doesn't go away, at least until 2027. That's what Clemson is saying here. ACC owns Clemson's media rights to their home games to 2036, even if the institution ceases to be a member of the conference. And everything we know about grant of rights, that is true. The ACC also claimed that member institutions must pay an exorbitant $140 million penalty to leave the conference, and that the members owe the conference fiduciary duties, specifically with respect to obligations created by the grant of rights media to the conference. And then it goes on. So, wow. Breaking news. We're gonna have to open up the phone lines here real soon. Clemson notes that it did not authorize the ACC's lawsuit against Florida State. Clemson did not. Now, there is a report on who did. Give me a moment here. Give me a moment. We're just flying by the seat of our pants like we do here. Like we do. Matt Baker, Tampa Bay Times, reported 18 minutes ago. As we sort through all the sides and all this, I can report at least 5 schools that were in favor of the special January meeting to approve the ACC's amended suit against Florida State. Miami was one of them. Pittsburgh, Louisville, Georgia Tech, and incoming SMU. Miami was one of them. Shocking news. Shocking news. I don't think I can pipe into that article. I think that's, can't do that. Let's get out of here. Collegiate athletics is at a crossroads. Clemson writes in its lawsuit against the ACC, a teensy bit of an understatement. No question about that. No question about that. Again, if you do have, I know people are just getting, everybody's just coming to understand what just happened here. If somebody has the lawsuit, I still haven't seen a link. If somebody has a lawsuit, please send it to me. Please send it to me. At Flug Empire on Twitter. Rock and Rant, thank you so much for your incredible generosity. Holy smokes. Wow. Gifted 5 memberships. Rock and Rant, you are hereby knighted Cloak and Dagger. Thank you so very much. Wow. Thank you so much, Rock and Rant. Mr. Hurricane, let me, Jan Hulk, Wayne Russell, Tony Rodriguez, JL, Don Scruggs, you are all now members of Peek Around the Corner, and I appreciate you all being members. Go and you can watch the Cloak and Dagger membership only episodes at your convenience. But right now, you are all hereby knighted Cloak and Dagger members of college football's Peek Around the Corner. Please say thank you to Rock and Rant. Yeah, it looks like maybe Miami did approve, according to Matt Baker's reporting of this morning. Holy smoke daggers, Greg. Holy smokes, Benjamin Griffin. So Miami stabbed Florida State in the back. Again, as we've said, the president of Miami, don't quite think he's aligned with the rest of. He's definitely not aligned with the athletic department. We talked about this before. They're not on the stage. That's the reason they're not on the stage. But remember, in the Holy Smokes Theater, we've been updating this, just like we did with the Big 12. We told you, Clemson at the edge of the stage, holding hands with North Carolina. We're going to get into North Carolina in a bit. Clemson and North Carolina, they have grown quite close. Again, now you might say, great. Well, how do you know this? Well, nobody has pounded the table more and more heavily than college football's Peek Around the Corner in reporting to you all that Clemson, this was Clemson's plan. Now, we thought it was going to happen in late January, early February. It did not. Still don't know the reasons why. We've been telling you, we've been reporting to you that Clemson has not acquiesced. Clemson has not had any interviews locally, nationally, regionally with the SEC. They have gone stone quiet. Ever since December 22nd, 2023. Quiet. Crickets. Nobody could get an interview. Nobody could get any information. Nobody could get even a smidget of a comment from Clemson. Kind of reminded me of USC not commenting on anything Pac-12 related. Anything Pac-12 related. For months before June 30th. And we reported that in the spring and summer of 2022. What the people in the industry told us is that the main reason why the January 30th to January 20th to February 6th, why that date, people thought that that's when Clemson was going to pull the trigger, is because it was before the winter meetings of the ACC. They thought it was going to happen before and not after. So that we've taken the L on that, I think 16 times. We'll take another one today at 17. We keep piling that up. But nobody has pounded the table more than we have. That Clemson, they were actually going to do this. They have worked too hard, too long, have had too many people involved. They've been too quiet. They have spoken, and we know one of the locations, and we've hinted at this before, there was a hot bubble of action with Clemson in a state north of South Carolina and to the west, and we'll unveil that. Hopefully somebody in their reporting is going to unveil that. So then, just like when we waited for somebody to finally say, and it was Pete Thamel, by the way, who was the first to say in Chicago, May 7th, we're waiting on somebody to report. Clemson has had talks with people who would be able to tell them their value, their worth. Remember we talked about risk-benefit analysis here, cost-benefit analysis. It favors Clemson to do this. There is literally, at this point, there's literally no risk. The benefits outweigh the risk. Clemson had to pull the trigger. And we told you the chatter was higher than ever on Friday live show Friday, March 15th, we looked you straight in the eye at the beginning of that show, and we said fireworks is going to happen soon, soon, soon. Tumasta says Greg Shanky gave the nod. Tony believes it's Florida State and Clemson in the Big Ten. Buckshot Kid is in the house. Huffer Billy Paul, Clemson, not happy with Miami. Jen Fari, Clemson fans on Twitter are so happy. Lorenzo Haynes is in the house. Chris Kenny, Hooded Ninja 4 is in the house. Now, I'm going to, look, nobody, now maybe it's not out there yet. Here we go. Does anybody have time to look for a link? County of Pickens. County of Pickens. I guess I'm going to have to do it here. County of Pickens Court. Oh boy. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to find it. Somebody's got to find it. Here is Pete Knuckles. Clemson has filed a lawsuit against ACC in Pickens County, South Carolina, according to court records. I'll put that up on the screen. There it is. Again, I don't think it's the introduction. We've already read the introduction. The ACC has publicly asserted that the ACC irrecoverably owns the media rights of a member institutions to home games played through 2036, even if the institution ceases to be a member of the conference. That is the main reason why the dissolution vote could not happen. Even if you completely shut down the conference, or if you form your own conference, because if there's 8 teams that leave the conference in the ACC is going to quickly backfill. They're going to negotiate some media rights, but they're which is not going to be at the level that they currently have, but they're still going to own the media rights of Clemson, North Carolina, all the Magnificent Seven schools. That's the problem with that. You've got to beat the ACC grant rights in the court or get a settlement in the court. Okay, I'm going to open up the phone lines here. I will get to super chats as quick as possible, but we're going to open up the phone lines and see what y'all are thinking here. Breaking news, everybody. Clemson has filed a lawsuit in South Pickens County, South Carolina. The phone lines are now open. 763-260-1333. Okay, here we got something here. Okay. Clemson seeks a declaratory judgment on 3 points. Okay, I'm going to shut off the phone off real quick here. Let's get to, well,
call from
Crab Cakes and Football.
Crab Cakes and Football, can you hold on a second here?
Yes, sir.
I appreciate it. We just finally got something here. Clemson seeks, this is from Midwinter, Clemson seeks a declaratory judgment on 3 points. 1, the grant of rights doesn't include games played while Clemson is not an ACC member. Number 2, the withdrawal fee is an unenforceable penalty. Number 3, Clemson doesn't owe the ACC a fiduciary duty. Okay, go ahead, Crab Cakes and Football. Go. The floor is yours. And while you have the floor, I'm going to read through this here. Go ahead, sir.
All right. Well, I'm glad Clemson finally did something to support the FSU lawsuit here, because I felt like they were leaving them out on the island for the longest time. I'm kind of surprised by Miami's president backstabbing them, because that's going to look bad on Miami when somebody comes to try to claim them or potentially claim them. That might even cost them a spot in one of the major conferences. And I'm beginning now to wonder who's next. Is North Carolina, or who's going to be next to file, do you think? I mean, I think it starts the floodgates. I think now you're going to start getting numerous lawsuits against the ACC. So,
well, according to the Holy Smokes Theater, North Carolina is holding Clemson's hands. So I think that tells you what we think is going to happen next. But it might not happen for a while. I can't imagine North Carolina jumping in until they see the effect of what happens in Mecklenburg County and Leon County. But I think North Carolina is probably the next one up.
And next question is, if Florida State and Clemson both get out of this thing, I mean, not only does it diminish the value of the ACC conference by hundreds of millions of dollars, I mean, it would do irreparable harm to. So that would have to force Notre Dame to start looking elsewhere and join a conference, don't you think?
And that's why they're on the stage, standing in the shadows, way off to the edge. Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm starting to pick up your Morse code now.
That's why we do the Holy Smokes Theater. Yeah.
All right, man.
I appreciate it.
I'm something to listen to. I'm going down the road. So
have at it. Thank you. Appreciate the call.
Later.
Crab Cakes and Football, Mr. Terrapin. Okay. Let's get into more of what was actually said here. I don't know if I can. Yeah, I can't do anything with that. Okay. Clemson granted certain media rights. This is Clemson's lawsuit in South Pickens, South Carolina. Clemson versus ACC. Clemson granted certain media rights to the ACC in agreement executed in 2013 and amended in 2016. The agreement provides, however, that Clemson granted the conference only such media rights as were necessary for the conference to perform the contractual obligations of the conference expressly set forth in certain specifically identified media rights agreements between the conference and ESPN. The ACC has repeatedly ignored this qualification in interpreting the scope of the grant of rights and the rights consequently retained by Clemson. The proper scope of Clemson's grant of rights can only be understood by reference to certain media agreements between the conference and ESPN, agreements that are not within public view. That is what Florida State has been saying. Those agreements reveal that Clemson's grant of rights to the ACC was more limited than the ACC maintains. So Clemson, they're saying what the ACC is saying isn't true. We know it. That part of it is not out in public view. the agreement between the conference and ESPN. It was limited in scope, the grant of rights. It was only the grant of rights only for such media rights necessary for the conference to perform contractual obligations of the conference expressly set forth. Number 6, properly understood. The contractual obligations of the conference did not include providing media rights to games played by a school after that school exit the conference. Wow. Again, I can only tell you, I don't know. Like JD has said over and over again, we don't know what it says between ESPN and the ACC. But traditionally, that's what the grant of rights does. It holds your media rights. The ACC, even if you leave the conference, the grant of rights doesn't keep you in the conference. What the grant of rights does is it keeps that conference, it keeps that school from being valuable to another conference. That's what the grant of rights is there. That's where it has the teeth, traditionally. But the ACC believes that this grant of rights that they granted in 2013, then that 2016, when it was amended, when it was kicked to 2036. Remember that 2013 grant of rights went to 2027. When they amended it for 2016, the schools got some considerations and the creation of the ACC network. The grant of rights was kicked out to 2036. Clemson is saying when they sign on the dotted line, it was only for Clemson meeting obligations if it remained a member of the ACC. Okay, so let's go to number 6. I got the phone off. We'll have the phone lines open after we go through this part, okay? After we go through the lawsuit, that's important. Properly understood, the contractual obligations of the conference did not include providing media rights to games played by a school after that school exits the conference. The media rights to games played while Clemson is a member of the ACC are the only rights necessary for the ACC to perform the conference obligations under the ACC's media agreements with ESPN. The media rights to games played at a time when Clemson is not a member of the ACC were never a part of any grant of rights. I got to tell you, again, the ACC ESPN agreement is not in public view. Clemson has seen it. Florida State has seen it. Clemson is using a different language here. And wow, there must be some direct... Traditionally, what Clemson is saying is not the case when it comes to these grant of rights. But maybe the ACC screwed up in writing them, or maybe they just did it differently than anybody else. The ACC's contention about the scope of the grant of rights granted, which is wrong, must be corrected now. Clemson is coming at this at a different angle, ladies and gentlemen, or at least in a different language. And then the withdrawal penalty. Clemson is tacking the withdrawal penalty, which Florida State has done so. The ACC asserts that any ACC member school must pay an unconscionable and unenforceable withdrawal penalty equal to the amount of 3 times the ACC's total operating budget a figure currently exceeding $140 million to leave the conference. Though described by the ACC as liquidated damages or as a form of alternative performance, the sum that the ACC insists a member pay upon withdrawal from the conference is an exorbitant penalty that is not connected to any economic harm that the conference might suffer. It is not connected to a continuation of the relationship and has ballooned to the point of unconscionability since it was first adopted in September 2011. As such, the penalty is void as against public policy and unenforceable as a matter of law. Fiduciary duties. This is the last part, and then I'm going to get to the super chats, and then we're going to get to your phone calls. The ACC has recently claimed in court filings that its members owe the conference fiduciary duties arising from the ACC's constitution, the ACC bylaws, the statutory and common law, including duties allegedly arising from the characterization of the ACC as a joint venture, and from the good faith and fair dealing obligations of parties to a contract. The ACC has gone even further and sued another conference member for allegedly breaching duties owed to the conference by challenging the enforceability of the grant of rights of media to the conference. Clemson disagrees. Clemson disagrees and asserts that no such fiduciary duties are imposed by the ACC Constitution, the ACC bylaws, or any applicable statutory, common, or other law. Moreover, Clemson has not breached any legal duty owed to the ACC by filing this lawsuit. Florida State has said the same thing. Clemson has not breached any legal duty owed to the ACC by filing this lawsuit, which does not challenge the enforceability of the grant of rights, but merely seeks a declaratory judgment regarding the scopes of the rights granted. Okay. Now, I got a lot of questions. Let me go through the super chats real quick here. Will you be in St. Paul to watch your alma mater? No, I will not be, Tony. I will not be. Can't do it. Cannot do it. Thank you, Tony, though. I appreciate the super chat. I'm too busy. I'm just too busy. I can't even leave the house. I was down the road getting something very important for my 91-year-old mother, and I had to turn the car around just to have this live show. Thank you, Tony. Appreciate it. John Teal, Clemson, Florida State, Miami, Georgia Tech as the four horsemen to the Big Ten. I appreciate it, John. I don't think Georgia Tech is going to be in there, but we shall see. Thank you so much once again for your continued generosity to the channel. And Carrie, once again, unbelievable generosity to this channel. He keeps doing it over and over and over again. Wow. Carrie, thank you so much. You are once again hereby Cloak and Dagger Knighted. I appreciate it, Carrie. You are a very important part of the PATC community. No question about it. And for those who became members, Love Sports, St. James, Ryan C., Christopher Counts, you've all been gifted a membership to this channel, which means you can go to our YouTube channel, watch the Cloak and Dagger membership only episodes. Go to our YouTube channel and enjoy that. Carrie, thank you so much. For those who were gifted a membership by Carrie, please say thank you to Carrie for his incredible generosity. Now, look, I might be wrong here. Okay, let's open up the phone lines. Now, whoever calls in, please be patient. We may break into your call. I'll give you more time because the reporting This is real time here, real live. This is live here. So I might have to break in. I might have to give you my thoughts. So please be patient. The phone lines are now open. 763-260-1333. 763-260-1333. Now, let me say this. On December 22nd, 2022, Peter Collins, the chair, they had the Board of Trustees meeting, and they filed a suit. We did not know at the time.
Call from
JD.
JD, beautiful. Mr. Seminole, can you hold for a second?
Yes, sir.
I appreciate it. We did not know at the time, when the Florida State Board of Trustees did the filing, that on December 21st, the ACC came through the back door and filed their own suit against the Florida State's BOT, the Board of Trustees, on December 21st. Do we know for sure? Do we know for sure that the ACC did not file before Clemson? Maybe they did. I don't think so, but maybe they did. Okay, and if they didn't, well, then Clemson, has a leg up and possibly getting the case in South Pickens County in South Carolina. And my next question, I do not have the answer. I'm just asking questions here. JD and everybody else, did Clemson have a non-public board of... we've got somebody out there looking at... I better be careful. We were not given the heads up here, peek around the corner. We weren't given the peek so we could give you the peek on an updated Clemson of the Board of Trustees. As far as I know, and I haven't had a chance to check it in the last hour, but Clemson's website, the next meeting is still that quarterly meeting on April 4th and April 5th. Did they have a secret meeting, a non-public meeting, or did they have a public meeting and they just slipped in and out? Did they have a Zoom call that lasted 15 minutes to give the ability of Clemson to file this lawsuit? Or is it in Clemson's own statutory university bylaws that they did not have to go through what Florida State had to do to file a lawsuit? Those are all questions. I have no answers. JD, thank you for your patience. The floor is yours. Clemson finally pulled the trigger. The chatter was loud, as we reported to you all, and it finally happened. Go ahead, JD. What are you thinking here?
Well, I wondered a long time ago, and I'd asked this question in different places, and I never got an answer, but it was because people, I think, didn't necessarily know. Did Clemson have to give notice like Florida State did? Because if they didn't, they were just going to file and then tell you after the fact. Doug Rohan on Twitter earlier, I guess an hour or so ago, had looked on the Pickens County website, and he had not seen where the ACC had filed. So
okay,
that was just didn't see it anywhere. So if that's the case, then they got their lawsuit in first.
But in Pickens County, or did Doug Rohan or see if the ACC filed against Clemson in Mecklenburg County?
Then he might have checked Mecklenburg too. I don't know. I'd have to go back and look.
Okay.
I've been driving for most of the last hour.
I was driving too. Yeah.
And I had looked at some of the documents before. There's a link on WarChant, but I can't seem to share that link. You follow me? So, a contributor had published it or posted it, so I can go in there and look at all the documents. And I was going to try to call in earlier, but I know the phone wasn't open. Yeah. And Clemson is making the argument of the theory I've been talking about for a while. It's not necessarily my opinion, but it's my theory on whether the ACC can own broadcasting rights of former members. I've even presented that.
Yeah, we've had that discussion. And all I can tell you, traditionally, everyone has believed that that's what the grant of rights. That's what it's really there for, to protect the conference and protect all the schools.
Yes, sir.
So a school can't just leave and have its own rights. This is one of the reason why the conference has everybody's rights. Is when it negotiates with its media partners. The media partners know that the ACC is not going to lose a valuable member of the conference. So it helps the negotiations for the ACC and its schools. However, look, I have not seen, right? None of us have seen that document. And Clemson is saying, yeah, this media rights is very limited compared to what we all, or most of us, believe to be the case. But go ahead, JD. You're absolutely right. You've been bringing this up.
Well, like I said, it's not been my opinion. It's been a theory, because I could understand the argument on why. How can you own the rights of a former member? It just because if the ACC didn't give members a method to get out of the conference, then I could see the grant of rights holding. But you allow them to leave. You give them an opportunity to leave and a method to do it. So how can you own that from a conference? I don't know if jurisdiction is the right word, but if FSU left the ACC to go to the Big Ten, how is the Big Ten contractually obligated to pay the ACC?
They're not. They're not. And they wouldn't be able to.
There's no contract between them. Mm-hmm. So there was just a lot of gray area in there. Now, don't get me wrong, the preponderance favored the ACC's version, but it wasn't absolute. And now Clemson is arguing that exact same point.
Yeah.
But anyway,
this
is going to get figured out.
I got a feeling. Look, JD, in the traditional, okay, I'm talking old school, okay?
Sure.
I'm an old guy, fat guy from Minnesota. I'm just telling you. Traditionally, Clemson does not, that argument doesn't hold water. Now, just give me a moment, though. I mean, it's like Prince. It's like the music company that distributed the artist Prince from Minnesota, distributed that content. Prince couldn't just go out and do music for himself or another music media company, because that company owned they own his rights. That's what it does. It keeps you, now Prince calls it a slave or whatever, but that's the tradition sense of the grant of rights, where it doesn't keep you in the conference. It's not an exit fee. An exit fee is you pay out a big slice and you can leave. The grant of rights doesn't do anything. It doesn't keep you from leaving. It just keeps you from someone taking you. Now, that's the traditional, that's how it's always been. However, I will grant you, look, Clemson ain't no dummies. I mean, in fact, at the very beginning of the Holy Smokes Theater, we said that Clemson, we were told this by multiple people, that Clemson was really buttoned up in their board of trustees. If you go look at, and I'm not taking a shot at Florida State, I'm not taking a shot at North Carolina, I'm not taking a shot at the University of Minnesota. So please don't anybody think I'm taking a shot at you. But Clemson, we were told, extremely professional people in the board of trustees. So they have gone through a great expense, just like Florida State. They've had people look at this. Look at the members of the board of trustees. Go take a look at them. So if they believe that the agreement between the ACC and ESPN, where it's very limited in scope, what the ACC had to give to ESPN to make this happen for this Tier 1, Tier 2 contract. and that Clemson leaving would not harm, would not do anything. That Clemson should be able to take its media rights with them. That, this is very interesting to see how this plays out, because Clemson believes, at least they believe they know, right? They're not dummies. They're Clemson. Go ahead, JD.
Take the argument or the opinion you just said about Prince. The record company owned his past performance, but when he was no longer under contract, they didn't own his future performance. So the ACC owns the broadcast rights to the games played, while FSU or Clemson are a member of the ACC. Clemson's argument is not arguing that point. They're saying that the ACC doesn't have the legal right to claim rights of a past member. So like I said, anything that Prince did, any music that he wrote after that point, the record companies didn't own. Well, it's the same argument that Clemson's making. They leave the ACC. They don't own future performance. They don't have a right to future performance.
Let me flip that on the other side of the coin. These media companies, the reason why they want the conference that they're negotiating with to have the grant of rights, to own the media rights of its schools, is so the ESPN and the Fox of the world know that school is not leaving. Because if they leave, they're completely invaluable to wherever they go, because the ACC will keep pocketing the money. ESPN will keep, if Clemson walked out the door today and joined the Big Ten, ESPN would keep showing Clemson's home games. And then the money would go to the ACC. The Big Ten would not see a dime of it. Traditionally, that's how it's been. That's how it's been understood. That's how the Big 12 worked it. Even the Big 10 has it. But if Clemson sees that this is limited in scope, that it's written that way between ESPN and ACC, or look, then we're not going to even have Gores anymore, because if it doesn't even do that, if it doesn't even grant the conference, that's what a grant of rights is. I have your rights until this certain date. Then Gores are going to be overturned everywhere. Well, again, we don't know what the language is between ACC and ESPN, and that is what Clemson is arguing. Can you hold on just a second here?
Sure.
I do appreciate it. This is Ross Dellinger. Clemson contends the ACC's exit fee, $140 million, is absurdly high compared to other conferences, and goes on to list the other exit fees. This is number 82. Upon information and belief, the ACC's excessive withdrawal penalty is significantly larger than that of the comparable intercollegiate athletic conferences as set forth in the table below. The Big Ten has a $0 withdrawal fee. The SEC has $30 million if 2 years notice provided, $40 million if less than 2 years notice, $45 million if no notice is provided. The Big 12 is an amount equal to revenues distributed to departing members for the final 2 years, so that would be about $80 million. And of course, the penalty for the ACC, as it stands right now, is about $140 million. That's just the exit penalty. Go ahead, JD. Thank you for letting me cut in there. Go ahead.
Oh, no problem at all. Well, see, I think that comes down to the philosophical argument as far as what rights do grant of rights actually have. And the ACC can say, I have it till 2036 and you sign the dotted line. But is that actually legal? It doesn't matter. It's like you're getting divorced and the state says you don't have certain rights of a ex-spouse past a certain point, but you have a contract that, you have some type of an agreement. Well, sometimes one thing nullifies another thing. And again, I'm not saying this is the case. I'm saying I have a theory on some of this, and I have a theory how some of this could play out.
Yep.
That it really doesn't matter that the ACC said, oh, well, we got you locked up to 2036. The court could look at them and say, you didn't have a right to claim that of a former member. You didn't have the right to do that. And that's my question. So their intent, even by their own admission, indirect admission, was just to hold these conference members hostage was, the whole point. And that's a form of servitude. And courts don't like that. We don't have debtors' prisons anymore. Mm-hmm. If somebody falls in financial harm, you can declare bankruptcy and walk away from it if you meet certain guidelines. So in this aspect, not only is the ACC asking these two conference members to essentially declare bankruptcy, they're trying to take their assets for the next 20 years or 13 years. And the court is not going to do that. You go back, and I'm going to change the argument a little bit, and I appreciate you giving me the time, because again, I'm not saying that theory will be will be proven true. It's just Clemson is raising the exact same argument, and I find that fascinating.
Yeah,
but anyway,
I find that fascinating too, because these are not. Florida State and Clemson are seeing something, right? They're seeing something.
Yes, sir.
And that's something. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the people in the chat, that's something. Between ACC and ESPN, we can't, it's not in public view. And not only is it not in public view, whatever that is, that Clemson is confident that if they should leave the conference, that they should have their media rights. It's hurting Clemson in be able to talk to other conferences, but they have been third party, but they cannot sit at the big table, right? None of this has been decided on, as we've said. They only can do so much. This is hurting Clemson's ability to figure out their future. So they need a declaratory judgment. They need a judgment on how far does the ground of rights go. Absolutely. JD, I appreciate the call. I think we got a whole lot of calls coming in.
Can I bring up one other point, and I'll be quick.
Yep.
You've been taking the L on Clemson filing, and I don't think you need to be taking that L anymore.
Yeah.
Somebody on the message boards, actually a couple of people on the message boards, War Chant and some of the other ones, made a pretty good observation, actually really good observation. You notice how Clemson filed on the exact same day the college football playoff was finalized? There has been a few people that have been saying Clemson, and they've been saying this for over a year or more.
Yeah.
There's something in the college football, the future college football playoff that's going to create an exit for FSU, Clemson, and others.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is, but they keep saying it's coming. You notice how many times they've had to reschedule these meetings and go over and over.
Yeah.
And Clemson has been kicking the can down the road. You notice it gets filed on the day it gets approved.
Yep.
There's something in here somewhere that we're not seeing. There's some language. There is an escape hatch that has been triggered.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is, but like I said, I wouldn't be taking the L anymore. You're not in control of the college football playoff, but
I appreciate it.
But there's something there, and I don't know what it is.
We take a lot of W's, so we're going to take the L because we did put a date range. It's interesting. It's interesting, but I appreciate it. Thank you for the call, JD.
Hey, sir, have a good day.
Call back later in the show if you want. Okay, buddy?
I'm going to try. I'm going to meet with a customer, but I will try because I think you're going to be on the phone or on the show for hours. So.
Got it. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you much. Please call back whoever was on the line. Richard L. Super Chat. Thank you so much for your generosity, Richard L. I appreciate it. Do you think the breakaways might try to overwhelm the ACC with multiple lawsuits using different tactics in different jurisdictions? Lawfare. Well, we called it the bull rush, right, Richard L? Everybody joins in the bull rush, strengthen numbers. We think North Carolina is next.
Call from
Immaculate.
Mr. Hawkeye, the floor is yours. Holy smokes. Clemson, breaking news, files a lawsuit. And it's interesting what they're saying. The penalty, exorbitant, Fiduciary, Clemson should not be sued just because they're taking Florida State to court. But the other one where they say, look, the ACC grant of rights is only valid if we're a member of the conference. Interesting times, Immaculate. The floor is yours.
Yeah, well, here you are, man. I mean, there was, the big question when you called for it and it didn't happen. Everyone's like, well, why didn't it happen?
Yeah.
I think Clemson got the nod.
Got the nod from who?
Well, I think at least from the SEC, maybe the Big Ten. I think what happened with the CFP and the way they evaluated in order to hand out those ownership percentages, they looked at previous participation in the CFP. That has Clemson written all over it.
Absolutely, and shame on me for not bringing it up in my brief monologue.
Yeah.
Immaculate.
I wanted to get that in before I had to go to work. I wanted to say that specifically.
Yes.
Because that means whomever Clemson goes to when they have the 2028 realignment thing, that's going to give them a lot. So now the SEC, whereas they wouldn't have wanted Clemson before, because of that one thing, they might say Clemson is worth it. So go ahead. I know you wanted to nail that.
Or Clemson is always, or the SEC has always wanted them. But this gives them, this gives the SEC the ability to talk to South Carolina and others and say, look, this is going to get us up. You're all going to be making a few $1 million, even more every single year. And we're going to get bigger voting rights, bigger distribution pie because we bring in Clemson. Yeah, Immaculate, absolutely correct. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I think this one broke the dam. This one, someone was asking me, what does this cause the price? And I said to them, to me, the question now is who's next? With this happening, I think we're on a runaway freight train to a settlement. Whatever happens with Florida State and the ACC this week now is kind of a moot point. They're not ahead of Clemson in this. It's like, how many of these does ACC want to face? When it was one, you're trying to hold it back. With two, the flood is on. So,
this is the bull rush. And to be honest with you, we thought here at Peek Around the Corner, it wasn't just us, but we thought Florida State was going to do this declaratory statement in the first quarter of 24, and then we thought Clemson was going to follow closely behind. Neither happened. Florida State did it December 22nd. It was probably the playoff bid snub that made them, go jump a little early. And then why Clemson did it after the winter meetings and not before, we still don't know the story on that. But you know what? You could be right, Immaculate. Maybe because they've had third-party talks, and we know one of the cities, at least one city that they had a third-party talk. We are going to be breaking that news at some point if somebody doesn't do it before us. But somebody gave them the nod with this playoff voting rights and distribution, just like Immaculate said. That was the tipping point. Clemson became a whole lot more valuable on the board, and now Clemson files a suit.
Yeah, the timing, someone could say it's coincidence. That's fine.
Yeah.
But to me, it's just Tuesday after the CFP gets figured out. They just today did the official announcement. Just today.
Yeah.
Like the whole ESPN agreement and everything. So to me, it doesn't happen that close if it's coincidental. I mean, it's like they had someone waiting at the courthouse to file with you could get a reserved filing where someone's just there with you waiting for that agreement with the ESPN to happen.
Now I will, and I will say this, Immaculate. Even before now, maybe the timing they were waiting for this to happen, right? Clemson and probably the Big Ten and the SEC in regards to the CFP, right? The voting and the money, blah blah blah. But I got, and as I've been reporting, the Clemson thing, two extremes, right? One is they've been working on this for a very, very long time. There was interest. We knew it. We reported it over and over and over again. Clemson is going to, a lot of people are starting to doubt this, right? A lot of people.
Yeah, yeah.
But on the other extreme, Immaculate, Clemson has been as quiet as an athletic department could possibly be on such a big. They haven't said a word. They have been avoiding everybody until they could do this. That was so extremely interesting to people in the industry because they couldn't get an interview. They couldn't get nothing out of Clemson and the actions of Florida State and everything else. So finally, Clemson pulled the trigger.
Yep, and it's interesting. Like, if you get into some of the talk about the FSU filing and the schools that said yes or whatever, just now on X, kind of had a little conversation with the reporter out of Tampa, and what he said is that the schools that said yes, they said yes to having the meeting, but he doesn't go so far as to say that they voted yes to the amended complaint. A GT, a Miami. Yeah. Because SMU is in that list, and so it's kind of like, what? Like, how are they? So it's not an official like a vote. They were just saying yes, it's okay to have the meeting. Like, that's okay for having a quorum or whatever. Yeah. So it's possible that like a Miami and GT, Pitt, they were in that list. They didn't actually vote for the amended complaint. They just said it's okay to have the meeting. And like I said, that amended complaint is basically, in my opinion, evidence that the ACC knows it's supposed to have a vote for any type of filing against a member. So in a weird kind of way, not everyone who wanted that meeting or even maybe even voted for it are necessarily against FSU in this, because they created evidence against the ACC by doing that.
Yeah. We do.
So, I don't.
Yeah. We don't have a button-up report yet on who actually voted for the amended complaint for the January 12th. We don't know at least the 10 schools that really voted on that. We do not have a button-up report. I saw your interactions with Matt Baker and all that, so I appreciate you bringing that in as well, Immaculate.
And, just the last little bit on that, the only thing, there's been a lot of conversations going on behind the scenes. I'm telling you, people are reaching out a lot. But the only thing that really, truly matters to me is what the University of Virginia president stated in that, because that's factual. He's not going to risk contempt. And the schools that he named as ones that Virginia reached out to, that shows who they trust.
Yes.
That shows in that.
Duke, Syracuse, Wake Forest, Virginia Tech, Boston College, Virginia. That is the 6 of them.
Yes. And I would say those are schools.
Yep.
And this, remember, that's 2 schools of the Magnificent Seven. The situation evolved.
Yeah, those 2 schools that are completely tangled up with each other, right? So, yeah.
And I think, anyone not in that listing is basically UVA saying they don't necessarily trust them to not be looking for an exit, if you know what I'm saying. Like,
yeah. I mean, I don't know if they don't distrust Pittsburgh or Louisville. I don't know. Good point.
So I'll leave it on that.
All
like
right.
you're saying, I have people probably lined up ready to call in. I just definitely wanted to hit that point of why I think now is why Clemson wins. And
You guys going live, right? Okay, I lost you. Appreciate the call, Immaculate. You're broken up. Sorry about that, Immaculate. You're breaking up at the very, very end. Phone lines are open. Let me show you a quick report by Pete Thamel in a significant move that could continue to alter the rapidly shifting landscape of college sports. Clemson filed a lawsuit against the ACC on Tuesday that pretends its exit from the league in a filing in the Court of Common Pleas in Pickens County, South Carolina.
Call from
Chris Kenny.
Chris Kenny, thank you for the call. Can you hold on one moment?
Yep, no problem.
I appreciate it, Chris. Okay. This is a very short article, Chris. I'm just going to get through it real quick here. In a filing in the Court of Common Pleas in Pickens County, South Carolina, Clemson calls into question both the ACC's grant of rights and exit fees, calling the withdrawal penalty unconscionable and unenforceable. It also calls the ACC's view that the league's grant of media rights would allow the league to own Clemson's media rights after it left the league in a nonsensical reading. Wrong and inconsistent with the plain language of that agreement. I want to see the agreement. I want to see it because Clemson is going untraditional here. They believe there's an untraditional grant of rights in the ACC, ESPN, and with its schools. Clemson asked in the suit for a declaration that the ACC will not own the rights to Clemson's games after Clemson ceases to be a member of the ACC. Clemson also wants the exit fee, 3 times the ACC operating budget, an estimated $130 million. It said 140, I believe, in the suit. I believe it said 140. Ruled as an unenforceable penalty in violation of public policy. The total cost of the exit with the rights and the fees cast as $572 million in Florida's lawsuit. The lawsuit is the second one filed against the ACC in recent months, as Florida State filed in late December. The Clemson suit is significant because it indicates the league's 2 clear-cut football powers and the only college football playoff participants who played annually both want to leave the league. The ACC preemptively filed against FSU in Mecklenburg County, and the sides are haggling over the venue. The suit comes on the same day that the college football playoff is expected to announce a deal with ESPN that further amplifies the financial gap between the Big Ten and the SEC and the rest of college sports. Annually, each Big Ten and SEC team is expected to earn more than $21 million. ACC teams, $13 million. Clemson makes it clear the current ACC's television contract, which lags well behind the upcoming SEC and the Big Ten deal, looms as an inhibitor to Clemson competing at the highest level. Clemson took part in 6 college football playoffs, won 2 national championships. The ACC, here is the money shot, and we'll end the article right here. The ACC's actions interfere with Clemson's free exercise of its rights and are fatally detrimental to Clemson's efforts to ensure that its athletic programs can continue to compete at the highest level, the suit claims, which is critically important to Clemson, even beyond athletics. And that is also very, very true, Before I give you the four, Kenny, I just want to say, if you're new to the channel, or if you haven't done so yet, please hit the subscribe button. Have your notifications on. Again, we came on here, special edition, live show, covering breaking news all over college football. Subscribe, smash the like button. I appreciate you all coming in. Chris Kenny, thank you so much. Oh, by the way, can you hold on just for another minute, sir?
I ain't going nowhere.
I appreciate it. Appreciate your patience. Xmas Talks, Prince Inc.'s 4 albums. Can't leave after 2, Gore 2036. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it so much. Kerry, again, with his incredible generosity to the show. Super chat. I can't wait to see the ACC's smart bleep remarks on the Clemson filing. Or will they? Now, they're going to have to. They're going to have to, especially when it comes to the grant of rights thing. Well, all of it. The fiduciary, the exit fee, the grant of rights. That's the 3 main points that Clemson filed. Chris Kenny, thank you so much. The floor is yours. Thank you for the super chat, guys. Appreciate it.
No, I just wanted to weigh in a little bit more on this Miami angle that a lot of people in the chat are saying is a betrayal or something, or is indication that Miami doesn't have a spot ever in the Big Ten. And I don't think either of those things is true at all. If you look at what that tweet says, which again is an unconfirmed report, it's just a tweet. All it's talking about is asking for their opinion. I think vote, frankly, is too strong of a word. I think asking for their opinion to have a meeting to approve the amended complaint against Florida State. Well, what does that mean? It doesn't really mean anything, because what you showed yesterday, that exhibit in the Mecklenburg County suit, is that all the UVA president did was ask those other presidents whether or not they believed the lawsuit itself was, quote, material litigation that would require a vote. And all they told him was, no, we don't think it does. And so they made the decision without any sort of vote to file the lawsuit because it wasn't material. That was the whole point. It's like they didn't want to have a vote in the first place. That's why they determined that it wasn't a material lawsuit that would require a vote. So what are we talking about here? A meeting to decide to amend the lawsuit that you already decided wasn't material? I mean, unless it comes out that they had to actually take a vote, that the counterclaims they included in the amended complaint rose to that materiality level and that required a vote, but I don't think that's what any of the reporting has shown so far. And that seems weird to me that it would, because why would you ask the SMU president? He doesn't have a vote yet. They're not ACC members yet. So to me, it's more of just like institutional box checking. Oh, well, we talked to these guys and we talked to those guys and we decided to stay the course. But that's different than like formal decision making.
I don't think there's any button-up report that gives us any knowledge on who voted for the January 12th amended complaint that needed 2/3 votes, that needed 10 schools voting. We do not know who those 10 schools were. Yeah.
Well, do we even know that it needed a vote, or are we just saying?
Well, according
to
Virginia's president, there was a vote taken for January 12th. It was unanimous on those who were at the.
I see what you mean.
Yeah.
So
but we don't know those 10, and I don't think any reporting of this morning, even including Matt Baker's, I don't think any of it is evidence that we truly know what 10 schools actually voted for the amended complaint for to give authority to Phillips in the ACC to go ahead and do that. I agree with you.
So the initial lawsuit didn't need a vote, but because they filed counterclaims,
according to the
they
ACC,
did.
It did not, and they did not vote. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, that makes sense. So I guess there is some TBD out there. But let's assume they did vote for it. I don't think I'd be surprised if they did, but let's just assume that they did. So what? If you are a member of another league and if you're a member of your current league and you've already decided you aren't going to be the one to lead this charge the way some other schools have, that doesn't foreclose your future options, right? You have a fiduciary duty to the league that you're in. You're not willing to be like the lead case and take on all the risk and take on all the downside if you were to lose. You kind of hang back and see how it plays out. If Florida State's successful in busting this thing open, does all these people who think Miami's going to be left without a home or Miami's going to be in the Big 12, I don't agree with that at all. And I would point to this as sort of precedent. When the Big East was falling apart, they started backfilling with Tulane and Central Florida and what were then Conference USA schools to fill up the league as the other schools were leaving. And the Catholic schools, at least some number of them, voted in favor of those expansions. And then when the day came where that league wasn't sustainable for them anymore and they had an out with Fox Sports to break off and start their own league, what did they do? They left too.
Yeah.
And what they said at the time was, this isn't the league that we founded. This isn't the league that we've joined. This league has changed too much for us to stick around. Never mind the fact that they all voted in favor of those changes in the first place. So whatever you vote on today isn't going to preclude you from getting an invitation or an opportunity to go elsewhere. And I think, frankly, the same is true of Duke. And I think when the day comes, the same is true of Stanford. I don't think that those are universities that are going to get left out in the cold when all is said and done. And just because they're loyal to the ACC today doesn't mean that they won't be opportunistic when there actually is an opportunity that they're ready to seize. Utah and Arizona State weren't the tip of the spear in breaking up the Pac-12, but when they had an opportunity to leave and that was the best opportunity available to them, begrudgingly, reluctantly, however you want to characterize it, they took it. So I cannot believe that a team like Miami, a brand like Miami with as much growth and money that has flowed into South Florida in the last 3 years is going to get left out of this. I think it's like a lot of soap opera type stuff people are sort of hoping to see. I think the Big Ten be very eager to have Miami in the fold if and when they become available. And just because they aren't leading the charge to do it today doesn't mean anything 3 years from now, 4 years from now, 6 months from now for that matter. So that's all I had to say. I just think people should, not read too much drama. There's enough drama already in stuff that's actually documented.
I appreciate it, Chris Kenny. I do agree with you, sir. Thank you so very much.
All right, have a good afternoon. Bye.
Beautiful call. Great call. And just to update everybody, the Holy Smokes Theater, we had Florida State in the center of the stage. They fouled. We had Clemson on at the edge of the stage, closer to Florida State. They just fouled.
Call from
Jeff Fuller.
Jeff Fuller, can you hold on a second here?
Of course.
I do appreciate it. Appreciate your patience. And then we got North Carolina holding Clemson's hand. And just remember, we got Miami of Florida in the first row. If you remember back in the Big 12 Holy Smokes Theater, we had Colorado at the center of the stage. We had Arizona at the edge of the stage. And who did we have in the front row? Well, we had Arizona State and Utah. So I think you guys kind of understand where we're coming from at Peek Around the Corner. There's been enough positive chatter behind the curtain when it comes to Miami, Florida. Of course, the Clemson chatter, I've been talking for weeks, has been enormous that they were going to do this. Everyone was looking around going, why haven't they done it? Before we get to Jeff Fuller, I want to get to David Hale, who is he's a credible Clemson beat writer. I just want to get to what he's been saying here. This was 49 minutes ago. Like Florida State, this is not an announcement of intention to leave. It's not a notice of withdrawal. It is a lawsuit designed to see what obstacles to leaving exist, basically testing the exit fee in the Gorn court. Neither had been adjudicated before, so this is testing uncertain waters. Number two, David Hale says, like the Florida State lawsuit, this is not likely to be determined anytime soon. Clemson's lawsuit is in South Carolina. Florida State's in Florida. ACC's countersuit is in North Carolina. It'll likely be months before we know the jurisdiction, and that almost certainly be appealed. Number three, unless we get to a settlement here. Number three, Clemson's lawsuit reads very similarly to Florida State, both of which effectively attack the exit fees and the GOR as unenforceable and grossly excessive. Important. A court agreeing with that would have much wider implications for TV negotiations and league contracts nationally. I would agree with that. This isn't exactly new. Clemson has largely been in line with Florida State's way of thinking all along, but has been less vocal about it. Seeing how the new playoff agreements would shake out was one sticking point, though, and pretty clear. ACC powers aren't happy with that outcome. Number 5. Is this the end of the ACC? No, not yet. Even if these lawsuits ultimately pave the way to an exit for Florida State and Clemson, teams that stand pat could be in line for a very, very, very big payout from those exit fees, which is a good incentive to hold tight for the time being. Of course, if and when Florida State and Clemson leave, there will likely be others to follow. But as several prominent administrators have repeated to me, there are not indications that the SEC of the Big Ten is eager to expand right now. That's the same thing they said about every story that I've covered so far. Job 1 is leaving. Job 2 is finding a home. Florida and Clemson probably would. Could others? Yeah, a couple others, in my opinion. David Hale, the other thing to keep in mind, Big Ten added Washington and Oregon at about 40 cents on the dollar. So it's not just about finding another home, but about getting a good deal in the process. Leaving for less than a full share and paying a massive buyout is an exponential problem, but one that every single ACC school would do if given the same problem. They would pull the trigger. The last thing, why now? By filing lawsuits, Florida State and Clemson are giving themselves A, leverage, B, jumpstart on whatever lies ahead. In both cases, it's about having options in the coming years when virtually every AD I've spoken to believes that sometime between 26 and 29, we have said 2027, things will look much differently. And then finally, another point, one more point. The additions of Cal, Stanford, and SMU were a numbers gamut by the ACC that ensures its TV contract with ESPN remains in place, even if Florida State and Clemson depart based on contract language about minimum numbers of league members. That is David Hale, a great Clemson beat writer. I had to get that in. I appreciate your patience, Jeff Fuller. Thank you so very much. The floor is yours.
Hey, thanks, Greg. Got 3 things I want to go ahead and address. Number 1 is, you've given us a peek around the corner. You have every right to take victory laps. We should pat you on the back. It's fine if you pat yourself on the back. You're not giving off that vibe, but you've definitely helped us who've been following your show and been reading the tea leaves along with you. That this is not expected. It was a matter of if or when, not if, this was going to happen.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
This is sort of the other shoe dropping, though, and I think from a national perspective, before this, it's easy for your average, fan and average, person to just think, Florida State, they're just a bunch of malcontents. They're just whining. They didn't get in the playoff. Now they're trying to leave the ACC. But when the second largest football brand in the ACC also files a lawsuit against the ACC, I think everyone starts to pay attention. Maybe we'll see that over the next few days. It's like, whoa, here we got a second lawsuit. What's going on? And people who are in the know, whether they follow your show or just follow college football real closely. Not surprising, but I think it's going to drive more sort of common man attention towards, what's wrong with the ACC? Why is everyone wanting to leave? Is it a sustainable force going forward? And I have two, the 2 questions related to that. How, assuming, a few teams leave for the Big Ten and or SEC, and others have a decent landing spot in the Big 12. There's probably 3 or 4 teams that may not fit into either of those categories. Are they going to be able to pull a Washington State and Oregon State and just sit there, be stubborn, gather up all the exit fees, all the excess money, hold on to the media money, and decide what they'll distribute and when they'll distribute it? lawsuits, countersuits. That's sort of my question: is how do all these smart people who are looking for their best financial interests for their programs or universities, how do they make that happen? And counterpoint, is there enough money that some decide, hey, we've got enough money from these exit fees and grant of rights money or settlements? Do we have enough to entice other brands from the Big 12 or other places to come in and join us on a role reversal there? That's the first point. Then I have one other question about sort of the look-in provision in your mark, but I'd love to hear your comment on that first question there.
Well, Washington State and Oregon State, man, do they have some tough decisions in front of them, Jeff. I mean, not only do they got to start building their G5 conference, right? They've got the war chest. They're talking to media companies. Are they going to take some of them? They're going to take some of the Mountain West schools, maybe a couple of AC, or maybe not. I mean, now you got what's going on here in ACC country. Does Washington State and Oregon State, do they wait patiently? Do they see what happens? Can they be part of we don't know what the ACC is going to end up. They might end up as the highest tier G5 conference or G6 conference, however many conferences are formed below the Power 3 if this all happens. Does Washington State and Oregon State wait on the ACC to see what happens? I don't think they can. I think they have to start taking action here soon on building a conference and making sure they have an exit hatch to get out of whatever conference they create, just in case they get a call from the ACC. Now, we know from reporting here in the last couple of weeks, we know that Washington State and Oregon State both called the Pac-12. I mean, they both called the ACC, right? We know that.
Oh, yeah.
So, had there been communications between the Cougars and the Beavers with the ACC? Have they been given some assurances if so many more teams leave? But again, I get back to it. The ACC has already backfilled. They've already backfilled to keep their current contract when it comes to the membership clause of the contract with ESPN to keep it above 15 or higher. They've already backfilled with Stanford, with California, with SMU. So it would have to be more than 3 teams that leave. There probably will be. And if there is, would Washington State and Oregon State, would they be the top 2 schools that get the call? And does Washington State and Oregon State know that? It's very complicated, man. Great question, Jeff.
Yeah. There's a lot of moving parts. And
yes.
Anyone who says they know exactly how it's all going to end up, I think there's just too many variables to put in at this point. Just thinking about, as a Big 12 fan or of a Big 12 school, I think a lot of us were sort of disappointed at, the Big 12 and the ACC sort of quote unquote admitting being lesser financially, and we all know that. But when you sort of agree to a contract and sign a contract saying that our average school is worth less than the Big Ten's and the SEC's average school, that it just, I think that's never happened at this level of the Power 5 before. And there are shifts, and all the blue bloods are in these 2 conferences, we understand. But my question is this: even though with that disappointment is sort of an inside game going on because I remember a caller a few days ago, they talked about, this look-in clause and this financial disparity, that it's a one-way ratchet, that that the SEC and the Big Ten will use any look-in clause actually to get more financial power, not less, not give it up. So what's the purpose? Why is your mark fighting for this look-in clause? The only reason I could think of, if Phillips was ACC's commissioner, was fighting this disparity, but Yormark was okay with it with a look-in clause. Was there sort of a backdoor handshake agreement that let us sort of take over the ACC between the three conferences, the highest or the best 12 brands or 10 to 12 brands go to those three conferences. And then, there are 2 to 5 schools left over, sort of like Oregon State and Washington State were. Once that's done, does the look-in provision come back, and is there more financial equality or not as big of a disparity? Would Yormark be willing to do that for that reason? I don't see the two big conferences releasing more financial control, but why would Yormark want a look-in provision if there's only an option of losing more financial control?
Because Brett Yormark is going to grow the gap between his institutions versus whatever remains in the ACC and with the G5 conferences. Right? It isn't just about the SEC and the Big Ten that Yormark is looking at. He wants, again, Brett Yormark may have other designs on increasing the value of the conference through an expanded NCAA tournament, how those tournament credits or money gets passed around. But look, Brett Yormark was not thinking about the Big Ten and the SEC when he took that deal for 30. When he took that media deal with ESPN and Fox, it was way behind the SEC and the Big Ten.
Oh yeah,
but he took it because the Pac-12 was foolish enough to pass on it, and then he went and poached the Pac-12. I don't think Brett Yormark is. I'm not saying he's not looking at the gap between himself and the Big Ten and the SEC. I just believe he's trying to do what's best for the institutions of the Big 12. And that is, if the Big Ten and the SEC eat at the ACC's table, yes, they're going to grow more in power. But Brett Yormark's going to keep growing his brand in the Big 12. And who knows, 6 years from now, who knows what the Big 12 is going to do in the NCAA tournament, who the Big 12 might surprise and do great in the CFP tournament, which is going to increase their value.
So
I don't
sort of
think Yormark's
taking a
worried
risk,
about
betting on yourself, and I agree on the media deal. Pigs get fat, but hogs get slaughtered. We saw the Big 12, got a pretty good deal, but the Pac-12 was a little more greedy and looking over at the Big Ten's deal and saying, hey, we're the sister conference of the Big Ten. We should be getting, close to what they're getting. And their commissioner even said that in some of the valuations. So we see we see sort of the wisdom of being a good businessman and saying, hey, this is what I can get. I'm going to get it and lock it in. Where, these other conferences may be dying on the vine while he's making strategic plays to survive and advance.
Especially when the media market was starting to get tight in October of 2022. Yormark knew that. The Pac had no clue that was happening. So,
Hey, great stuff, Greg. I appreciate you letting me call and meander around with my ideas, but it's been interesting to watch. And again, I appreciate, as many of us do, the peek around the corner that you've been giving us for well over a year now.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Mr. Foley. Thank you for the kind words.
Yes, sir. Take care.
Beautiful call by Mr. Jeff Fuller. Drew Vandemore, will UConn finally get into P4, either the Big 12 or the ACC, once these teams leave the ACC and this all shakes out? Or is this Charlie Brown Lucy with the football situation and we're doomed forever? Thank you for the super chat, Drew. Look, if we just had the second. I'll get back to you in a second, Drew.
Call from
CFP Plus.
CFP Plus. Thanks for calling. Can you hold on a moment, though?
No problem.
I appreciate it. Drew, look, Clemson and Florida State. We got to take a step back and be clear about what just happened. Clemson, the second or first, it doesn't even matter. Most powerful football brand in the ACC just filed a lawsuit against the ACC to try to get a declaratory statement on the exit fee, the penalty, and the grant of rights itself. If this implosion happens, the ACC is not going to be at the same tier as the Big 12. Unless somehow, some way, I don't know how it would happen, they could poach from the Big 12. If Florida State and Clemson leaves, there's going to be other ACC schools leaving. So I don't think there's going to be a Power 4. I think there's going to be a Power 3. But ACC might have the ability to be the highest G5 conference there is and all that stuff, right? And we'll cover that story if that happens. So for UConn to get into a depleted ACC, that might be the right move for UConn. That might be the perfect move for UConn. The Big 12, I think Yormark is waiting for the ACC implosion, and then UConn's not gonna. I don't think they're going to be the number 1, 2, 3, or 4 things that the Big 12 wants to eat at that time. But yeah, I think UConn should just be patient. They shouldn't be. They're not flirting with any other G5 conferences at their time. Of course, that great basketball program, and women's and men's, of course. A lot of variables. But yeah, UConn could finally get in the Big 12, the ACC. The Big 12 is going to be considered that P3 if the ACC implosion happens. I don't think ACC is going to be considered a Power 4 at that point in time. Thank you, Drew, for your super chat. Thank you so much for your generosity. The floor is yours, sir. Go ahead. Let it rip. CFB
Alrighty.
plus.
Oh.
Go ahead.
So I think I'm having a hard time understanding exactly what Clemson's argument is. Are they saying that there is no clause in the grant of rights saying that the ACC owns their media rights even if they leave, or are they just saying that is an invalid clause in that grant of rights?
You know what? It's limited in scope. In other words, and Clemson. Let me hold on a second here. Let me see if I can pop that back up. Give me a moment. I think I can find it. Okay, here we go. Okay, I'm going to pop it up on the screen, CFB plus. It says number 4, the grant of right. This is the lawsuit that Clemson filed in Pickens County, South Carolina. The grant of media rights. Clemson granted certain media rights to the ACC, an agreement executed in 2013 and then amended in 2016. The agreement provides, however, that Clemson granted the conference only such media rights as were necessary. This is in quotes, bolded letters, necessary for the conference to perform the contractual obligations of the conference expressly set forth in certain specifically identified media agreements between conference and ESPN. So, what Clemson is saying is that that granting the ACC their grant of rights, their media rights, the Clemson signed it only with the understanding, Clemson with the understanding that grant of rights only, the ACC only owns those if Clemson remains a member of the conference, and that the distribution contract between ACC and ESPN basically backs that up. And basically there's some language in there that we can't see yet, according to Clemson, that ESPN basically knew of this limited grant of rights between Clemson and the school. Again, if this is the case, it is non-traditional on how we understand grant of rights when it comes to these conferences and their schools. But go ahead.
I'm just trying to think, because I have a hard time believing that that's the case, that the grant of rights would be so narrow in language that it would allow for Clemson or anyone else for that matter to wiggle their way out of that.
I agree. I agree. And I would like to see it.
So it may be helpful because, to my understanding, the Big 12 grant of rights is essentially the same thing as the ACC's grant of rights, where the ACC took the Big 12 and they just changed it up to fit their, the ACC conference and whatnot. So I don't know if it would be helpful to look at the Big 12's grant of rights and kind of take that as a guide to what the ACC's may look like, since it's under lock and key, to, I guess, figure out like what's the realistic possibility of Clemson pulling something like this off.
It's always been said that the ACC and the Big 12 grant of rights are very similar to each other, but that's the 2013 grant of rights.
Okay.
So the amended one, who knows? Now, but Clemson did say, and I'll put it up here again, that the agreement executed in 2013 and amended in 16. The agreement provides, however, so I don't know if Clemson believed it was a limited in scope grant of rights in 2016 and 2013, or just 2016. It's hard to understand. But number 5, the proper scope of Clemson's grant of rights. Let me pop it up on the screen. The proper scope of Clemson's grant of rights can only be understood by reference to certain media agreements between the conference and ESPN. And this is what Florida State is saying, by the way, as well. There's something that contract between the conference and ESPN that are not within public view. Those agreements reveal that Clemson's grant of media rights to the ACC was more limited than the ACC maintained. So, what is that language, CFB plus? I don't know. Let me just throw out a scenario. What if that contract somehow indicates, ESPN somehow in that language said what is, like Clemson, like, what if it's, but if Clemson moves to another, if ESPN, like at the SEC, they can take their ownership of the rights with them. It wouldn't be set in that language, but you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something in there that ESPN threw in that would give Clemson and Florida State and others more freedom. I don't know, man. I'm just throwing darts at this point.
You're good. I understand that. It's just, I don't know.
It's strange.
I just have a hard time believing that there's, I don't want to say legal grounds to leave, but just that they pull it off. And it seems like, if anything, they're trying to put pressure on the ACC to settle out. And that seems more like a realistic opportunity, especially if like North Carolina jumps on and starts suing the ACC. Because if they can break the grant of rights, then everyone's gone and they can't get anything from them.
Yeah. We do have a little bit of a breaking news. Well, not breaking news, but David Hale, which very, very, very credible, says, folks, this was a question but from Dan Hogan. David Hale. Have you addressed this option that ESPN has for the ACC in 2025? I've heard it referenced, but I don't have a clear picture of what that is and how it fits in. David House says, folks, I've talked to people around the ACC schools that don't believe there's much of a chance of ESPN voiding the deal. It's a sweetheart deal. And ESPN owns half of the network, the ACC network. But Florida State and Clemson lording the departure over those conversations adds a big wrinkle, i.e. leverage for Florida State and Clemson. So David House saying there's not much of a chance right now for the people he's talked with that deadline is February 1st, 2025, that ESPN can void the distribution deal with ACC for 2027 to 2036. David House talking to people saying doesn't look like there's much of a chance of that happening. But go ahead, sir.
I mean, that's kind of just about all I have. Is just a lot of it's conjecture and speculation of what the end game move is, because I think everyone would agree that FSU is leaving the ACC at some point. Clemson's leaving the ACC at some point.
Yeah.
North Carolina, NC State, they're probably leaving. Miami, probably. It's just when exactly and how they do that is really the question.
Yeah.
And that's about all I have.
Okay.
Thanks for the show.
Appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for having me on.
You got it, buddy. CFB Plus. Thank you, sir. Beautiful. Great call by CFB Plus. Again, if you're new to the show or if you haven't done so, please hit the subscribe button and have your notifications on. We can come on it live at any time. We came on live. Breaking news. Clemson lawsuit files in Pickens County against the ACC. Holy smokes. So subscribe, smash the like button. If you want to become a member of the channel, go to the link provided in the description box below the video. Hit the link, then hit the join button and become a member and enjoy Cloak and Dagger.
Call from
Moen.
Mr. Buckeye. The Buckeye himself, Moen, is on the line. Holy smokes. The floor is yours. What is going on, sir?
You hear that sound, Greg?
Yes.
That's the sound of Notre Dame's independence disappearing.
Moen, can you hold on a second?
Yep.
Carrie, I
Yep,
forgot to do this. Why didn't the ACC rush down to the courthouse to beat the Clemson lawsuit? Great question. I asked that earlier. Thank you for the super chat. I'm gonna let Moen have the floor, let him cook, but then I'm gonna ask him a series of questions. That's one of them. Sorry about that, Moen. Go ahead.
That's all right. Yeah, if Clemson and Florida State are both out of the ACC, what benefit does Notre Dame have to be in the ACC? It would be the weakest conference out there, arguably.
Yeah.
So no reason for them to stick around. They can finally join the Big Ten where they belong and bend the knee. I found it interesting that Clemson did not go all out against ESPN like Florida State did.
Yeah.
Seems like they want to keep friendly relations with ESPN.
Yeah.
Which could be a sign of where they plan to head. That could be, hey, we want in the SEC, so we're not going to pee off too bad. So
very, very good very good point. Yes.
And then finally, I think that the ACC didn't file because they were blindsided. They didn't know it was coming.
Okay, so my question on that is, now when Florida State filed on December 22nd, at the time when we were watching that all play out at the Board of Trustees meeting, we did not know that the ACC acted the day before on December 21st in Mecklenburg County. So it could be, probably not, but it could be where the ACC acted before Clemson, that they got the heads up. But the main question for you, Moen, is is there something at Clemson University that they did not have to go through the same pathway that Florida State did? Florida State needed a public hearing, a public Board of Trustees meeting to give the authority to whoever at Florida State to file the lawsuit. It sounds like Clemson did not have to do that, or they did a public meeting that lasted 15 seconds and nobody knew that it happened, some sort of Zoom call, but it was never on their website. I can tell you that.
Right. Well, when was the last public meeting they held at Clemson?
The last public meeting was the quarterly meeting, and the next meeting is a quarterly meeting, April 4th, April 5th.
Okay. So there's no reason that quarterly meeting took place before or after Florida State filed?
Before Florida State filed.
Okay. They could have entered an executive session at that point and said, hey, look, we're going to file. Who's on board? But they didn't say when they were going to file, Yeah. But as soon as I said it last Friday, I said as soon as the ACC signed that college football playoff deal, they were signing their own death warrant.
Yes.
They may still survive as a conference, but they're not going to be the ACC. It's going to be some lesser form of, because you're going to have Clemson leave, Florida State's going to leave, Miami's probably going to leave, and North Carolina's going to leave. That takes at least 40%, 45%, 50% of the value out of that conference.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what's left of it, even if they do backfill with Oregon State, Washington State, Tulane, a Memphis, some of these other schools, a USF maybe, it's not going to be considered on the same level as the Big Ten, SEC. It's not even really going to be considered on the same level as the Big 12.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Big 12 becomes junior partner in this arrangement with the Big Ten and the SEC.
Yeah.
And then the ACC is on the outside looking in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have time for a question?
Sure.
And Ross Dellinger, I've read it out of the lawsuit. I'm just going to use Ross Dellinger's tweet. Midwinter put the same thing up. A lot of people have. Clemson wants the court to rule on three things. One, the ACC does not own the broadcasting rights to games after Clemson leaves the league. Number two, it is not required to pay the exit fee. Number three, it owes no fiduciary duties to the conference. We understand number three. Number two is 130 million is way more than everybody else. Number one is the one I want to ask you about. The ACC does not own the broadcasting rights to games after it leaves the league. And what Clemson is saying in that suit, and they say it's not in public view, but the ACC is misrepresenting, and the media, Clemson took a shot at the media, misrepresenting what this ACC grant right says, especially in some sort of contract communication between ACC and ESPN. Clemson is saying that it's very limited in scope, that grant rights, that if they should leave the conference, they should own their own media rights, that grant rights is only if Clemson remains part of the conference, which again is completely against your traditional grant rights, what people thought of it. But Clemson believes they have the goods only if this could come out in public, this contract between ESPN and ACC. What are your thoughts on that? To me, that's the shocking part of this lawsuit, that Clemson is being so strong in this argument. But go ahead, Moen.
Yeah, you would think that that's a little bit of a difficult legal argument considering the conference they're coming from. I mean, the University of Virginia, North Carolina, Duke, they have incredible lawyers. They're not going to stumble over and put a simple loophole in there for Clemson to say we own our media rights. My only assumption on it is it's related to the 2027 clause, that they somehow believe that 2027 clause will free them up from their obligations. So they're probably saying, hey, we'll buy back our grant rights, which that the ACC's already put that out there, that, hey, just pay for your grant, Now, what that fee is, who knows?
We have breaking news.
Okay.
We have breaking news. Clemson just came out with another statement. I'm going to read it real quick.
Go for it.
Today, Clemson University filed a lawsuit in Pickens County, South Carolina, against the Atlantic Coast Conference. In this litigation, Clemson seeks confirmation of the plain language found in the grant of rights agreement and the related media agreements between the ACC and ESPN. It's that media agreements that Clemson wants that out in the open. That these agreements, when read together, plainly state, that Clemson controls its media rights for games played if it is no longer a member of the ACC. Clemson also seeks ruling regarding the enforceability of the severe penalty the ACC is seeking to impose upon exiting members and confirmation that it does not owe a fiduciary duty to the conference as alleged by the ACC. The ACC's position regarding the grant of rights, the exit penalty, and obligations owed by members to the conference, as detailed in its public statements and other court filings, leaves Clemson with no choice but to move forward with this lawsuit. Clemson has not given notice, just like Florida State, that is exiting the ACC and remains a member of the conference, i.e., it remains a voting member of the conference. Again, Clemson. Mullen, let me just say this one part, and then we're going to open the floor back to you, sir. Clemson seeks confirmation of the plain language found in the grant of rights agreements and the related media agreements between ACC and ESPN, that these agreements, when read together, plainly states that Clemson controls its media rights for games played if it is no longer a member of the ACC. Man, Bowen, what is going on? What is in this media rights agreement between ESPN and the ACC? Is there like an SEC clause in there? I'm just throwing out wild speculation, Mullen. The floor is yours.
Yeah, I don't think you could have an SEC clause in there because it would be market allocation.
Yeah.
That would be an
You're right.
antitrust issue.
You're right.
But
what is in there?
It sounds like this depends on what your definition of the word is, you know. You're going to have them saying that, well, it says this, and you're going to have the ACC saying, well, it means this. I don't know. But I would just say the one that's going to be hard to get out of is that exit fee. They're going to have to pay some kind of exit fee.
Sure, and that'll be negotiated
because they voted for that exit fee. Yeah, they voted for that exit fee. They're the ones that voted for it.
Yeah.
So that one's a little harder to get out of, but just interesting. I just wanted to put them points out there, especially that I noticed they took great care not to piss off the ESPN overlords. And I'm sure Jim Phillips will have a sternly worded letter here he'll release shortly.
Well, what if now we know ESPN responded, right, about the Florida State thing, Florida State
right.
ACC. What if ESPN responded? Remember, ESPN does not want their trade secrets to be opened up. Now, Clemson, as you said, Moen, did not do that. But they are saying there's something in that ESPN ACC agreement that plainly states that if we leave, man, we taking our rights with us. Wow.
Yeah, this is a situation where time will tell.
Yes.
But I'm looking at the clock and wondering when UNC is going to file, because I have to imagine after the Florida State hearing this week.
Yeah.
I think UNC's right next out the door. And I think that might topple some dominoes. I think Miami might follow suit shortly after.
Well, I'm only going to answer it this way, Moen. The same people, the same chatter, right? Same people who said that this Clemson thing is going to happen, although it happened later than we thought. They're the same. They're the same people who are saying that Clemson and North Carolina are holding hands. So,
which makes sense. That's a good fit for the SEC. They get into the North Carolina market. I had to argue the other week with you that Clemson is a nationwide brand still. It's still a valuable brand that would be good
you
for.
You had it on your panel.
Yeah, I know. I argued with you on it.
I was nodding my head yes, because there's been a little anti-Clemson on your panel lately.
Yeah.
And, Clemson, they know their value is to the point where there's so very little risk for them to do this right now. Especially,
I compared them to the Oregon of the East. Their brand is so valuable that from football success that
it's a brand multiplier. That's what it is.
Right.
If Clemson,
which I think is a good fit for the SEC.
Yes. And I will not shut the door on the Big Ten either. I wouldn't shut the door on any of these possibilities because the negotiations are going to be hot and heavy when somebody is released out of the grant of rights. And then who knows? Who knows? I mean, really, it's going to get hot and heavy.
I will settle for Florida State, Miami, and Notre Dame, and that's where we can stop at 21.
And to go back to the CFP, when that agreement was made, and the SEC and the Big Ten both combined got 58%.
Yeah.
And they used the valuation was past performances when it comes to playoffs, and that all that increased the Clemson's value to the SEC and the Big Ten, because if they get added to one of these conferences, it's just everything that happened in the CFP negotiations was more fuel to more expansion for the SEC and the Big Ten, and then the Big 12 is going to have a great opportunity to increase their value as a conference.
Yeah, I agree. I'll get off here and let some other people call in because we got a show tonight. But
beautiful.
Yeah, power three moving forward, Greg, and no future big expansion without Florida State, Miami, and Notre Dame.
You crack me up.
See you, Greg.
Mr. Buckeye. Mr. Buckeye mowing vision. Holy smokes. Wow, what a show. What a show. Let me put up on what Clemson said here. This just was a statement that Clemson put out during Mullen's call. And the most important of it is Clemson is asking for a declaratory judgment. Like, they just want to know this, right? Clemson seeks confirmation of the plain language found in the grant of rights agreements and the related media agreements between the ACC and ESPN, that these agreements, when read together, plainly states that Clemson controls its media rights for games played if it no longer a member of the ACC. I'm telling you, this agreement between the ACC and ESPN, that agreement, which you, me, none of the reporters, nobody can see it in public view. ESPN says it's their trade secrets. That agreement between ACC and ESPN that we cannot see, there is some language in there that Clemson believes triggers the ability for Clemson to leave the conference. And when they leave, they have their own media rights well before the grant of rights date of 2036, or even before 2027. What is that language between the ACC and ESPN? And Clemson comes out pretty hard on this. And Man, now we're going to be looking for that court date that Clemson has in Pickens County. And then we're going to have to see what the ACC's reaction is to that case. They'll probably have another case in Mecklenburg County. And then who follows up? Does somebody else follow up? Probably nothing happens until that March 22nd date, right? This Friday, just to see how it goes and what is the result of that case in Mecklenburg County, ACC, Florida State. Kerry, watch out, Clemson. They're going to take away your voting right. Man, it's just got way more complicated for the ACC. Clemson, the school that has won 2 conference football national championships. Man, thank you, Kerry, once again for your super chat. Thank you for your generosity. I appreciate it so very much. Unbelievable. Let me check. Let me check if there's any more reported on this. Okay, so we do have more reporting on it. David Hale, great writer. ESPN, let's take a look at it. I'm going to take the phone off. Just for a second. We got another article that was just published. An update from ESPN. Let's take a look. Clemson became the second school to sue the ACC in state court in an effort to extricate itself from allegedly erroneous exit fees and a grant of rights that runs another 12 years. The lawsuit filed in Pickens County, South Carolina on Tuesday follows a similar blueprint to the one filed by Florida State and Tallahassee last December. Both aim to challenge the veracity of the league's grant of rights, while the ACC's countersuit in North Carolina looks to uphold the agreement. So what does Clemson's latest legal maneuver mean for the ACC and the future of realignment? ESPN answered some of the key questions. Why did Clemson file its lawsuit now? Why not back in January or February? Why March? Third week in March. Whereas Florida State foreshadowed its lawsuit for months and announced it in grand fashion on late December 23rd, Clemson's efforts toward a potential exit have largely happened in the shadows. But make no mistake, Clemson has been essentially in lockstep with Florida State's thinking all along. And with the recent announcement that future playoff shares to the ACC would be nearly half of the SEC and the Big Ten, it was yet another domino to fall in Clemson's ultimate journey to this point. Both Florida State and Clemson understand that finding an exit strategy from the ACC will not happen overnight, so both lawsuits are largely about getting a running start toward the door. What exactly is Clemson arguing? Clemson alleges the ACC exit fee and grant of rights hinders Clemson's ability to meaningfully explore its options regarding conference membership, to negotiate alternative revenue sharing proposals among the ACC members, and to obtain full value for its future media rights. As we've been reporting to y'all, Clemson's been doing a lot of third-party talk and evaluation. They hired a consulting firm, but they cannot talk. You know, the Big Ten and the SEC are not officially talking with official representation of the conference towards Clemson and Florida State until they officially get themselves released from the grant of rights. We reported that to you all months ago, and we keep repeating that. So nothing is done. There is no big, huge coordination where all the pieces are laid out and everybody knows what's going to happen. That's just is not the truth. In short, Clemson is suggesting that a grant of rights is enforceable and illegal, a claim that could potentially have massive ripple effects throughout the college sports landscape if a judge agreed. Absolutely. Absolutely. But given the rapidly changing landscape of college sports, Clemson argues prohibiting free movement among schools could be a potential death sentence for its program. Clemson seeks, confirmation, the plain language found in the grant of rights and the ACC and the ESPN, when read together, plainly states that Clemson controls its media rights even if it's no longer a member of the ACC. Okay, that's about it. It's pretty much of a rehash. Wow. Again, more and more reporting coming down here. We're going to open up the phone lines once again. 763-260-1333. 763-260-1333. Thank you for all joining on a special edition live show, College Football's Peek Around the Corner. If you haven't done so yet, please hit the subscribe button, smash the like button if you like our content, and get your notifications on. Because again, we could come on again tonight, tomorrow morning, PATC breakfast. We cover everything in college football. Every live show for the last couple weeks, we've been doing a spotlight on a certain team, right? We've been going around the country spotlighting. Yesterday was UCF. We've done Indiana, Ohio State, LSU. We're just going around. We're not going to do that in this live show. We don't have time. But we're going to do Tennessee next. Maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow, whenever we come on live, we've got the spotlight shown on the Tennessee Volunteers. Nico, their quarterback. I think they're going to have a really good wide receiver room. They got the transfer from Tulane, that outside receiver. They got a real good safety, Pierce. We're gonna put the spotlight, the PATC spotlight on Tennessee next. It just says it's gonna happen. Not today, anyways. Expedition Greg, I did see that. I forwarded the Pickens County 13th Judicial Circuit for the Clemson lawsuit. I think I've gone through enough pages of the lawsuit, but I do appreciate it. Expedition Greg, I'm going to go back into it later this evening. Thank you so much, Mr. Pinball. Phone lines are open. 763-260-1333. Notre Dame. I don't know. If Florida State and Clemson are successful in reaching some sort of settlement or just a victory in the courts, a massive victory in the courts, I don't know how Notre Dame keeps doing this. As we've been reporting, the walls have been closing in on Notre Dame, and it just isn't about the revenue differences. It's about when we get to the point where there's going to be negotiations between football players, student athletes, football players, to a conference. Well, Notre Dame is going to be doing that negotiations between school and players. And if I was Notre Dame, that doesn't. We're not gonna talk about it on this live show. I've talked about it on other live shows. The negotiation advantage for the Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, and Alabama, Florida, Georgia, they're in a lot better position when it comes to negotiating with the student athletes than a standalone Notre Dame. Won't get into the particulars and why. We've done it in the previous live shows. We'll do it again. But being a standalone program, even if you're the mighty Notre Dame Fighting Irish, it's very, very difficult to do that and to compete at the highest level in college football. Huffer Billy Paul supporting PATC. Go Clemson. Oh my God. Thank you for the super chat, Huffer Billy Paul. I appreciate your generosity. We're getting more and more Clemson Tigers into the PATC community. Once again, they've been sitting there. Clemson at the edge of that stage. At the edge of that stage. The spotlight not quite hitting them, but again, this artwork was from a few months ago. As we said in our last Holy Smokes Theater update, Clemson and North Carolina at the edge of the stage with the spotlight hitting them just gently. And Clemson was closer to Florida State, obviously. Clemson holding hands with North Carolina. Notre Dame is at the very edge of the stage in the shadows. In Miami and North Carolina State are in the very first row. I appreciate Hufford Billy Paul, your generosity. Crab, cakes, and football. Discovery just got interesting. Absolutely. Thank you for the super chat, Mr. Terrapin. I mean, what is that language? Between ESPN and ACC, what is that contractual language? The media agreement, not the grant of rights. The media agreement between the ACC and ESPN. What is that language? When you read that together with the grant of rights that the ACC owns, together, Clemson is stating it's plain language. Clemson's saying it's obvious, especially when you add in the media agreement language between the ACC and ESPN. It's plain language that shows that the grant of rights is limited in scope, that if Clemson walks out of the conference, they own their media rights. Their own individual media rights. They don't have to wait to 2036. They own them the day they walk out. And this is hurting Clemson in regards to having meaningful, that was Clemson's words, meaningful negotiations, talks with, let's just say it, with the SEC, with the Big Ten. So, thank you, Crab Cakes and Football. I appreciate it. The phone lines remain open. 763-260-1333. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. Smash the like button if you like our content. If you do not like our content today, give us a thumbs down and let me know in the chat or on Twitter at Flug Empire how we can better serve you, the college football fanatic. Breaking news. Clemson has filed a lawsuit. And step back and think about it for a moment. Just because sometimes we get so into the deep weeds of this, we lose where we are. Florida State filed a lawsuit against the ACC December 22nd. Clemson filed a lawsuit March 19th. The two biggest brands. Football brands. Now ACC has to double up their resources, the money spent, their energy. They're gonna have to hire another set of lawyers for South Carolina, Pickens County. Can't be the same lawyers, right? Just another set of lawyers, another set of state laws, and ESPN. Take a look at ESPN. ESPN does not want their trade secrets out in the open. And that might be the key to this whole thing. That might be the Achilles heels. We talk about all these potential Achilles heels. Jim Phillips may not have had the authority to file the first suit. Maybe Jim Phillips did not have the authority to extend the deadline for ESPN for them to shut down the distribution rights for 2027 beyond. We're talking about all these Achilles heels. But what if the Achilles heel in all this is ESPN cannot afford to have their trade secrets out in the open? In other words, they don't want that language to come out about how, yeah, they can pull away from the ACC beginning in 2027. Or there's some other language. ESPN, that media agreement with ACC and ESPN, that obviously there's something non-traditional about it. What is it? Florida State and Clemson are looking at the same thing. There's something in there there's some language in there that ESPN must. Is it something like ESPN saying, ACC won't lose anything, no value, no money, they don't risk anything if a school leaves? What is it in that media agreement?
Call from
JD.
JD, Mr. Seminole, thanks for calling again, sir. The floor is yours.
Hey, Greg, I'm going to keep this brief this time. I know I went a long time last time.
No problem.
One thing to keep into consideration, our knowledge of the grant of rights, the ACC grant of rights, have been told to us by the ACC and ESPN, the ones that wanted to convince us that it went to 2036. They never told us about the 2027 option. They never told us about a lot of other aspects. So our understanding of what it actually says and what's in the contract, we really don't even know. Clemson is signed an affidavit stating, the making their claims. Some of the claims by the ACC haven't even been signed. There haven't been affidavits in their filings. We don't even know how much of it's even accurate. So, not getting conspiratorial here,
Yeah.
But there's just so much. And then also one thing else to consider, going back to FSU's filing last week. All those little conspiracy theories that have been floating about misgivings and potential fraudulent activity by the ACC. You notice what FSU is putting in discovery or seeking in discovery. They're seeking to prove those exact same allegations.
Yeah.
So I think I sent something to you about that. I don't know. There's been a lot of communication with people the last 2 days.
Yeah.
But not saying any of that's true. But FSU's claiming they can prove fraud by the ACC. We'll see. So it juicy stuff.
Yes.
Juicy stuff for sure.
Yes.
But anyway, I'm going to keep it brief. Like I said, I appreciate your show. I've been working, but I've been listening to you. And,
I appreciate you being a part of this community, JD. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, sir. Have a good day.
Yep. Clemson wouldn't have filed unless they thought they could win. I don't know. I think it's more. I mean, obviously they think they can win. That's true. But I think what Clemson and everybody else wants is certainty. Like, they need to know. So they can, if they're in this conference, if there is no way to get out of this conference, if there's no settlement that the ACC is willing to do, if the ACC's leverage is so great because they win in Mecklenburg County or Leon County or in a federal court or whatever against Florida State, then Clemson, they're going to have to figure out their future to survive until 2036 to compete at the highest level of college sports.
Call from
Larry the GM.
Larry the GM, thanks for calling, sir. I do appreciate it. The floor is yours.
Hey, Greg, I don't want to lie to your time. I just wanted to ask you a real quick question because I think you've been asking a really important thing today, why there was no countersuit or that we know of, at least at this point.
Or why could Clemson do this suit without having a public meeting of the board of trustees?
Well, I have a question about the ACC side of this. What if the ACC tried to garner up, the same sort of countersuit they had against Florida State, but given where things have navigated to since late December, they couldn't get the votes? What if Miami and North Carolina State, North Carolina, and some of the others just dug in their heels in support of Clemson? And maybe that comes down to some of the claims Clemson's making, especially about the Gore today. That it's a little different tone we're getting from Clemson, as you've detailed. What if they're saying, no, this is the suit we really want to pursue, because if what Clemson is saying here, it impacts all of us.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. A great point. I keep going back to Larry. I keep going back to the fact that why didn't Clemson do this earlier? We were told it was happening in late January, first week of February, but it did not. So did it happen because of the CFP? Was that the final thing? Was there some communication that the ACC did recently, internally, that Clemson said, nah, we got to do this now? Or is Clemson getting no more feedback from third-party talks and they're getting frustrated? I don't know. You bring up a good point. This, to me, and now I'm not a lawyer, Larry, to me this does seem to have a little bit of a different vibe to what Clemson's doing here. And that's what you're bringing up.
Yeah, Greg, what if all the stuff that's happened, I think the CFP vote or the CFP status and negotiations is a big part of it. But what if it's been the way that the Florida State lawsuit has been going, and Clemson's saying, no, that's bogus. Yeah, they've been building up. No, we know that's not true. We know what happened with the vote, or were they? I don't remember, Greg. Were they frozen out of the vote against Florida State too, or were they in the loop with those?
I don't think they were in the loop.
Okay, well doesn't that? I mean, if you're why, Greg? Why would Clemson? Why didn't Clemson deserve to be in the loop?
Well,
what have
they
they done
weren't
by
in
that
the
point?
loop when it came to an email. It was an exhibit of Virginia's president. Clemson was in the email to be notified of that, for January 12th to go forward with a vote. We don't know how Clemson voted, but they were notified that they were going to get together. Florida State was not in that email, but Clemson was in the loop at that point. But they did not. Clemson today admitted they did not vote for any of this stuff against Florida State.
Right? Didn't the ACC say the vote was unanimous?
Unanimous of the people that were there to vote. So they needed 2/3. So they could have had 10 people there all voting the same way, and that line would not be untrue, right?
Right, but see that I think there's some. There may be something there too, Greg. Right, because if Clemson's in some of the loop for those communications, but voices resistance to that, then they're getting frozen. That seems like, shouldn't there have been a healthy debate within the ACC before they take the step of filing a lawsuit against one of their members? And even if Clemson's the only voice in that discussion dissenting against it, shouldn't they have had a chance to voice their opinion?
Yeah,
I think the point being the ACC, I think, on shaky grounds if they froze Clemson out of that vote, and Clemson, that may be another part of what we're going to, we've gotten all these files, the legal filings back and forth. Wait till Clemson starts talking about that vote, right? Like the vote against Florida State. I don't know, Greg. It's a fascinating time, and I just want to say I really appreciate the way that you're covering it today. You're here for us, actually, as a clearinghouse of what's being said in the media. This is your shining moment, Greg, and I just want you to know how much all of us out here appreciate you.
I appreciate it. I appreciate those kind words, and I get a lot. I get a lot of that from the PATC community, and it makes me want to come back and work even harder. So I do appreciate those kind words, sir.
All right. Well, you have a good day, and I'm listening.
Got it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Very kind words from Larry, the GM. Replica. Could the trade secret be kickbacks towards certain parties? The Swarfords are UNC alum, and UNC Duke Miami always get favorable coverage. I don't mean to laugh, Replica. I don't think so. I don't think there's kickbacks in the language. Well, I don't know. I mean, maybe Flores. I don't think so. No. Well, hold on a second. Hold on.
Call from
Go Irish.
Go Irish. Beautiful. Oh, go Irish. Can you just hold for one moment?
Yep.
I appreciate your patience because I butchered this super chat. I apologize, Replica. If there is trade secrets kickbacks in the media agreement between ESPN and ACC, that isn't the point that Clemson is making, though. There's something in that agreement between ESPN and ACC, that media agreement, when read together with the ACC grant of rights. It's a plain language. It's really obvious that Clemson gets to grab their media rights, their own media rights when they leave the conference. Somehow there's language in there. But I appreciate, Replica, your super chat. I appreciate your continued generosity to the show. Go Irish! The Fighting Irish. You have the floor, sir. Thanks for calling.
What's up, Greg? How's it going?
I'm doing good. We've been very busy. It's a beautiful day. We do have breaking news. ESPN and College Football Playoff have extended their media partnership to 2031-32. It's all done. ESPN, and they're going to be sub-licensing some of the playoff games, or the potentiality of doing that, starting Uh-oh. I don't know if it's next year or in 2026. But whatever. Go ahead, sir. Go Irish. The floor is yours.
Well, this is the one thing that I kind of was, as a independent or bust Irish fan, this is the one thing that kind of held me up, was that if the ACC started to crack.
Yeah.
So this is the one thing that I've looked at that, okay, that could be a potential issue for us. Now, because as an independent or bust guy, what do you think about the possibility of us landing in the Big 12? Or is that too much of a step down? No offense to the Big 12 people, but I mean, just, I don't mean that offensive to the Big 12 people, because there's just no, Clemson or FSU. If they lose them, I think the conference is pretty much dead.
Well,
And,
for example, let's just pretend here. Let's just say that ACC implodes, they lose 4, 5, 6 of the top brands, but the Big 12 is able to pick up a Pittsburgh, a Louisville, a Georgia Tech. Could Notre Dame, NBC, swing a scheduling deal with the Big 12? Do have the same deal that they have with the ACC with the Big 12. That's a possibility. Notre Dame's not going to go full member into the Big 12.
No.
But the scheduling, the whole deal that they have with the ACC with the Big 12, is that a possibility? As long as you get some more East Coast property with the Big 12, yeah, I think that's a possibility.
I just see a potential problem with it is because the lack of big football powers. There's a lot of there's good football in the Big 12. It's just with our new NBC contract, I have to imagine there's some sort of clause that gives NBC wiggle room to get, to lower the pay. I don't know. This is the one thing when I saw it, I'm like, oh crap. Okay. this is the one that I've been waiting for. And I see Grateful George, Trojan. I'm not trying to wiggle out of this. I think this is probably the one thing that I'm been concerned about the most.
Yeah. Now, of course, that scheduling deal, Notre Dame, Big 12 theory, I mean, that's definitely not the chalk, right? It's not the favorite. Notre Dame and the Big 10 would be the huge favorite on that. In regards to the NBC contract with Notre Dame, we were told a couple months ago, both sides, I think, were pretty, they both know what's going on in the college football landscape. I think there's exit hatches all over that contract. I think what we were told that NBC protected themselves just a little bit with that contract in regards to there's not a set payment for Notre Dame every year. There's a little bit of a range, a little bit of a sliding scale depending on Notre Dame's home schedule, football schedule, because of the potential ACC implosion. Overall, I think NBC and Notre Dame are going to be willing to work with each other, which beyond other reasons, which makes the Big Ten the home of Notre Dame, the chalk of what could happen with Notre Dame. But I'm just not going to shut the door on the potential Big 12 scheduling deal, because Notre Dame, as you know, go Irish, they hang on to that independence with everything they've got. So we'll see.
We do, but I even seen a lot of pushback from people like me talking about the Big 12 as a possibility. It's just because of location, and we see ourselves as an East Coast team, even though we're in Indiana.
Yes. No, you do.
So
you do. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and I
don't know. This freaks me out a little bit. I'm like, everything else, I'm like, this is not a big deal. Money's no issue to us. But the ACC dying was the one thing. And if FSU, Clemson gone, the ACC is just not an attractive conference.
Yeah. Yes. And that's why we have Notre Dame at the edge of the Holy Smokes Theater, sir. They're at the edge of the stage. They're in the shadows, but they're definitely on the stage, because more than anybody else, they're looking at this situation with Florida State and Clemson. I do appreciate you calling me.
I appreciate it. Have a great show, Greg. I appreciate what you do.
Thank you. Go
it's
Irish.
been fun.
Please call again.
Oh, I will. I had an actual minute to call, so I appreciate you taking the call. You have a blessed rest of your day.
Thank you. Appreciate it, sir.
All right.
Beautiful.
Bye-bye.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. As my father would say, I've since my father passed on September 12th, every couple weeks I'd pick up another saying of his, and he would always go, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So I'm starting to say that now, and a lot of. Too bad I can't pick up the harmonica that he could play all the way till his dying day at age 93, September 12th. Dementia got a hold of everything, including his ability to use his legs, but he could still play the harmonica. Can't pick that up. And I can't quite sing like he could sing. But anyways, beautiful, 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 beautiful show today. I appreciate everybody coming on in. The wonderful, generous, incredible generosity. Not only to me, but other people in the community with your gift memberships from the PATC community. I appreciate it. Thank you so very, very much. Because we're not attached to anything. There are no strings attached to this channel. We go after everybody and anything, any conference, any school. There are no allegiances, no strings attached. The only connection is we have with you, the PATC community. I appreciate the incredible generosity. The comments in the PATC chat room. You've been on fire. I could barely get to any of it. I got to the super chats, but I appreciate the amount of interaction that happens on the show is quite breathtaking. And let's admit something. Not a real big YouTube channel. It isn't. I don't advertise it. I don't do all these little things that other people do. I don't have the time. But this is a pretty small YouTube channel, and the numbers we get for the size that it is, it shouldn't happen that way. It should not happen. Our numbers are way bigger than the size of a subscriber base. And that is because of you all, because of the interaction, the energy. And it goes on with the other shows. Our watch parties of last year, our watch parties of this year are going to be so incredibly fun. So we cover everything in football. Check in with us every day. Watch our episodes for everybody, and then the episodes for our membership only. The live shows are out of this world. I want to thank you all. And for the phone calls. The best phone calls there is in college football happens here. Because of you all. And let's be clear about something. There is no college football YouTube host that leans on its community more than me. And I'm the fat guy from Minnesota. So when I lean on you, you all feel it. You guys help me put on the show together. This special edition live show. You all help me put it on every single time. The DMs that I get from you all during the live show, before the live show, at night, 1 o'clock in the morning. You guys are producing this show. And I appreciate you. You are incredible contributors. Nobody leans on their college football community as a host of a college football YouTube channel. This is a national college football YouTube channel. It's not based on a team. It's not based on a conference. It's everything. No host leans on its community more than I do. So I am so incredibly appreciative. If you're new to the channel, or if you haven't done so, if this is your first time in PATC, please think about subscribing to the channel. Get your notifications on. Smash the like button. Keep us, stay with us here at Peek Around the Corner as we follow in the Holy Smokes Theater. The popcorn line is extremely long. A lot of drama in the theater. So stick with us here as we cover everything. Friday, I can tell you on Friday, Mecklenburg County, ACC versus Florida State. That's going to start at 9:30 Eastern Time, 8:30 Central Time. I'm not going to come on live until about 9:30 Central Time, 10:30 Eastern Time. I'm going to let this marinate. I'm going to wait till there's reports on it. I hope you all understand that. I hope you all, I don't want to come on here and there be dead air, or I don't want you all have to listen to me sing a song, or which I might do. So I'm going to wait for the story to marinate a little bit, and then we're going to come on live. So we won't be on live exactly at 8:30 Central, 9:30 Eastern, Friday morning, March 22nd. 30 to an hour later, we will be. So keep your head on a swivel, have your notifications on, subscribe to this channel. An epic day today, March 19th. An epic day, March 22nd is right around the corner. Epic day on April 9th in Leon County, just right around the corner. Here at Peak around the corner. So until next time, from all of us at PATC, to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.